Good. I'm going to open up this planning board meeting for the town of Maynard. Today is Tuesday, January 24th, 2023. The time is 7:01 p.m. Tonight's meeting is what we call hybrid format, where people can participate here in town hall or online through the Zoom account. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. We have a few items on the agenda tonight. Please note that there has been an updated agenda. Item 2 has been removed from the agenda based on the applicant's request. For different items, I will provide different instructions, but for now we can go right to item 3, and I will open up the continuation of the public hearing for 25 Nations Street on behalf of the applicant Sugarloaf. If the applicant's team could, for the record, identify yourself, and then we'll see where to go. I don't have a good sense of what to do now, but we've got there.
Great. I am Tim Heft from Studio and C2 Architects, here with Walter Sullivan, the attorney for Sugarloaf, and security consultant Rick Nagel, as well as Flavia Hungar, the owner of Sugarloaf Dispensaries. And I understand, Julie, you've got that screen ready for me.
And so we continued this from December, correct? From December 13th. And I think at that time, the board's instruction was for some work offline between the engineer and the applicant. Maybe an update from the previous meeting and what has occurred, and then we can turn it over to Wayne for his perspective as well. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. We don't have much here to show. I'll just flash it through the 3 images that we want to make sure everybody had. This, of course, is street view, showing the one-way private passage from Mason through to the basin, and the storefront in question, the north half of 25 Mason, the south half being occupied by Art Specialties. This is our site plan where where many of the simplifications are visible, and the enlarged entry area where we gave some close study to kind of enable the simplification. So the broad strokes of the differences between what you saw 5 or 6 weeks ago, whatever that was, and what we're presenting tonight, the kind of status of our request, is, from my vantage point, a pretty dramatic simplification of the project. The first and largest way, I should use the cursor, right? You'll probably recall we had proposed on the footprint I'm outlining now, we had proposed a not large, but rather visible and very conspicuous addition, renovation of the existing footprint. That is no longer the case. The proposal now anticipates sort of repair and repaint what's there with very minor modification. The exception to that is that we, as with before, we do continue to propose the addition of a single exit out that provides egress for primarily for staff out of the building and down and out through here. Another simplification in this area, we had earlier proposed fixed seating and are no longer proposing any fixed seating in that area. We have the kind of double line that I'm tracing here was present 6 weeks back. That remains. That is a flush granite curb, and its primary role is to delineate.
Would you mind zooming in a little bit? Is that possible?
Yep, so on the top, see,
Yep.
right there.
So I understand what the double line.
Sure.
Are you thinking of another sort of item?
Maybe we just need to. We should sit closer.
A bigger TV.
Yeah.
Clearly. So, this was there last time, it remains there today, so it just delineates the, our kind of delivery area. The diagonal striping that is present and worn today and labeled as, fire zone or fire lane, something to that effect. We're proposing, as a result of our dialogue with, Wayne and others on town staff, and perhaps some of that came up in our hearing last time, I can't recall. A slight expansion of that, area. We did, reach out to both Chief Noble and Stowers. I think Chief Noble copied others on his response and said he had no issue. I don't think we yet heard that from Chief Stowers. I know he was out of town for a while. So there's that change. You'll see here, if I zoom further, we've added a little symbol for the dome cameras at every corner of the building, and some cases, a couple spots that aren't corners here to provide a good overview of deliveries and other things happening in the back. We have preserved or maintained that aspect of our proposal by which we add some bollards in this area. They had been parallel to sitting wall, but the bollards remain. We feel like that's a good enhancement to safety in that area. You'll see there is a little bit more clarification on the kind of traffic control measures that we've taken down here or made down here. You can see the visible do not enter, a couple of signposts that flank that pathway, and at Wayne's suggestion, or especially speaking more broadly, I guess at staff suggestion, we're using the strategy that has been adopted elsewhere in town of placing the sign standard within concrete filled steel bollard. The other substantial change, I guess there's two more substantial changes. One, simplification of the parking. We went through as many as 4 or 5 iterations of attempts to improve parking in quantity and or quality, and decided in the end that that what would best serve here would be to simply refresh the striping that exists there today, and make no other change to parking. You'll see the note referring to the existing bumpers to remain on the building. There's an existing do not enter sign that will maintain there. At this end, we'll add some signage on some poles here, indicating one way, and also directing cars, indicating, referring to the fact that additional public parking remains behind the building, even if these spaces are, as they would not in our proposal, not be available to the public, but we would continue to offer this means of travel to the public to reach that space in the back. A good bit of our conversation in our last session together concerned itself with our changes to the Nason Street facade. You may recall, we were proposing to add a doorway into the building here. Through a kind of careful look at the sort of acute dimensional requirements of the security apparatus necessary to operate the place, we were able to determine that we could fit those, the geometry of that stuff can be fit into a portion of the existing lobby space, and therefore require no change or enable us to get safely and securely in and out of the building. Without. Got myself disoriented. Back up. That's what I get for zooming in too much. Yeah, there we go. Safely in and out of the building within. I'll point to it in the street view. This little opening or niche. Is. It's a little compressed in this view, but it's there. So this window can remain as is. All of the architecture of the existing facade can remain exactly as it is, no change. I think in summary, the substantial addition in the back is out. The change to the parking is out. The change to the front facade is out. We add a little detail. I think I referred to most of it that had been missing and requested. I'm not sure whether you've had a chance to receive and study any staff review notes or not, but I'll say from our end, we had I think it was 2 iterations of meeting with Wayne and Julia and Bill. One of the things I'll point out that came out of those sessions as we reconsidered our parking with a little help from Rick Asman, who you all know, the zoning enforcement officer in town, as well as the building commissioner. Rick was able to confirm that because we will be a first floor retail establishment rehabilitating an existing first floor space, there is a credit, I'm not sure that's the right word for it, but a means by which we are not obliged to meet any parking count. We have no parking count obligations because of that rehab credit. Parking simplified, and the one of the things that had been a little complicated in our proposal to in our efforts to kind of consider alternatives for this parking. Let me back out here so I can get the whole site in. You may recall a conversation about grade. You'll all recall that grade pitches overall quite gently from Nason back to the basin, but it does achieve a relatively sharp pitch over the last, say, 20 or 30 feet, which creates kind of a conflict when it comes to trying to find an optimal spot for accessible parking. One of the recommendations through staff review was to consider placing parking here, which we thought served our needs, and Walter did a little homework and came to the conclusion that it may also serve the town's needs. It appears that the municipality may have an obligation to provide an ADA space on each side of each block, or words to that effect. Walter, you can sharpen my language there as needed. So we felt like there's a potential win-win. We presented this scheme. I think Wayne or Justin recommended that we share these thoughts with some of our commercial neighbors in and around the neighborhood. I think we included in the packet, I sent the stuff to Bill, a little survey. We talked to 10 folks. 7 of them answered that they were in favor. 3 of them answered that as the manager, they didn't feel comfortable answering on behalf of the owner of the business. So 7 yeas and 3 sort of abstentions, I guess, but no nays. We also presented this aspect of our plan to the parking commission last week. And I have not seen the motion that was adopted. But the clear sense was that the commission was in support of adding a space. I think they declined to support the specificity of exactly that place. There was a question about who would pay for it. And with help from Justin, who was able to provide a crude estimate of the cost, we concluded that we would offer to pay for it as part of our proposal. We have not yet had a chance to see the ADA commission. We reached out to those folks and haven't yet heard back, but expect that if I can summarize what I understood the parking commission's only substantial reservation could be was the sense of where to put it. And they thought perhaps the ADA commission could help them determine whether this is the best spot for it. I do recall that Chief Noble felt like this might be the best spot for it, given that it's about halfway up and down the block. And he or Justin or Wayne pointed out that it's in pretty good proximity to the crosswalks nearby. Anyway, so I think happy to try to answer questions, but I'm not sure I can think of anything else at the moment.
Tim, this is Bill. Just one thing, the board does have a copy of the parking authority's recommendation, which I forwarded around. You might not have seen it yet, but the board has it and it's on board docs right there. Secondly, the fire chief did comment, and it basically his comments really had no issues with the parking. And the other recommendations of the fire chief are all condition type stuff regarding security and access. That's also been forwarded. I'll pop it up on board docs too. I don't know. I don't think it's up on there, so I'll pop it up. May have been on a previous one, but so those two should be taken care of.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Tim. Wayne, can I get your input on your review of the current plans and the status of that review?
Sure. So let's just reflect back. Tim gave a great summary of the current plan, but just to kind of reflect back, because we met with you guys several weeks ago, right? Vastly different plan in front of you at that time, right? I hadn't had a chance to look at it at that point. I did right after, and I sent a memo to you guys dated December 15th with several questions and comments. Tim was correct. Since then, we've met twice. We've talked about that. And then basically the plan is taken like a 180 for a lot of different reasons that Tim can get into and the applicant get into if they want to. But things have been simplified quite a bit. Okay. Tim did provide a response. I don't know if this was sent to the board this January 9th. Remember, I thought.
I may have just sent it directly to you.
Yeah, and also, Tim, just before we're done, there's a few things that have questions that probably just need to be finalized for the record. You know,
Okay,
even if the board chooses to close on this tonight or whatever, you should just refinalize this and just kind of send it back to the board today.
okay, thank you.
For that point, I think that's a good idea. It could be that this is, this is not applicable anymore, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
If they happen to get there, but it's the completion.
Right.
Very well.
And then we could put it into the file with
Yeah.
all of the documents.
So we went over pretty much all the comments. Tim, I think you addressed all of the signage ones, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Signage and striping that we talked about. I'm just looking at my notes real quick. And I think just so that the board is cognizant of this whole discussion about the handicap parking, you guys are theoretically proposing that as kind of a concession because we're in the DOD as a way to kind of help the project comply, right? Because clearly Rick determined you don't even really have to worry about parking.
It's our understanding that the board has a relatively broad latitude to accumulate findings that we're making considerable and appropriate contributions to the district. So it's kind of in that category that we think this is helpful.
Right, I agree. The reason I'm bringing that up, it's the board needs to recognize they don't really need that spot as part of their parking requirements. It's really as a contribution to the whole DOD thing. That's and the project. At least that's my understanding after Rick looked at it. As the enforcement officer.
So you had a previous set of comments, Wayne.
Yes,
Are we still working off that same set of comments regarding this, or are we transitioning to a new set of?
no, I
comment
think
feedback?
that it's that original set of comments dated December 15th. Tim provided responses to those. Tim, I don't know if it's worth just glancing at these to see if there's anything you want to bring to the board's attention. I brought up the ones I thought, like the signage, we talked about signage, I think we came to a good resolution on one way and directional signage, et cetera. The handicap spot was discussed. I don't know if there was anything submitted relative to the security route discussion. There might have been, I just don't remember.
Yeah, we submitted, somebody was asking for, what do these cameras look like? I submitted a copy of that.
I'm sorry,
Oh, you're talking about the
screen.
Which is number one?
I don't know, whatever we're talking about.
Peer review, letter.
Like, the problem is, I think
Is that part of the last?
no, so I had not completed that though before, when we were at that last hearing,
Okay.
afterwards, and I don't think.
Let's enter it into this hearing.
Yeah.
Bill, did you put that on board docs? If not, I can grab it through my email. Give me one second.
Oh, so, that item was removed from tonight's agenda. It's not part of tonight's agenda. Yeah. You're welcome to stay. We're talking about other items.
That's what happens when you come late, right? No, I'll pass on it. Then if it doesn't involve what I was here for.
The church and fire station is not on the agenda. That church and fire station is not on the agenda.
It's not.
Yes,
You rescheduled?
it was removed from the agenda.
Because the request was withdrawn.
So there's no additional. There's no future date. It's just been withdrawn. By the
Been
applicant,
withdrawn,
by the applicant.
which was who? The
fire
the fire department?
That's all the information.
Okay, so it's more or less just tabled.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, withdrawn.
So I'm sorry.
Oh,
we did do all that.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So, Tim, just to clarify, I was referring to the comment that said more detail is needed, preferably in a proposed write-up on the site plan regarding project delivery vehicle access or parking in the route. I know we talked about it quite a bit, and I think we settled on what made sense after we the building, but I'm not sure. I just can't remember because I don't remember whether anything formal was written down as far as delivery routes.
So we just summarize that in some text.
Yeah, I mean, you can put it right in the updated response letter. I think that would probably be appropriate. Like,
Maybe one thing where I know we spent a lot of time talking about the kind of potential circulation all the way around the building.
and they provided discussion in here that the applicant is leasing that other side of the building to someone else, so that's not possible. Well, that would have been preferable.
You talk about an item, can you scroll through where it is on the letter?
Yeah, we're playing a little catch up here.
Yeah.
Let's take a step back. So we have. Again, we had. Engineering comments provided by VHB. Since our last. Hearing,
That's correct.
and as instructed by the board. DHB and the applicant were to work out the details. Of any type of, design sort of conflicts in general, just to see if we can make some progress. And the challenge is that there's been substantial changes. And we just, for the record, it's going to be good to get this on record. We also just need to understand, I kind of need to understand status, and if we need, so my question to you, Wayne, while we wait for Julia, is how much more effort is there from your part to get a line from an engineering?
So I think that the only missing piece here is that you guys did not receive, let's call it draft response letter from Tim on January 9th, right? And, in his defense, because they were still working with the applicant, and the attorneys, there was a few questions that were still up in the air.
Mhm.
I think what needs to happen is that needs to be completed and needs to be put in front of the board, so you guys can review that. Or for the record. From my to answer your question directly, though, Chris, I think they've addressed all of my concerns. It just needs to be documented in a way that it's in your file. So if someone looks at this a year from now, they know why item number 6 was closed.
All right, in the last, say, 5 minutes, you guys have discussed a few items, could be just, again, for the record, reiterate it, and then just recap that back on the screen.
Sure.
I think that's gonna be helpful for everyone. So, my apologies for the repeat, but. I
No,
think
it's fine. I totally realize you guys are playing catch up. I think probably the most prudent way, it may take us 15 minutes, but if we just go through this, every line item and just talk about the comment in the quick response, that would probably.
Let's hold off on that then. It's a good idea. Maybe this is an appropriate time to go to the board for their general feedback,
Sure,
right? And then we can see where that ends up. I think that may help.
yeah, that's fine.
So is that okay, folks, if we take this to the board for the general feedback, and then we can go back to Wayne as necessary? Yep. Would anyone like to go first, or would you like me to go first? No, okay. You want to? Yeah, okay.
Is there a revised application that's been filed? Because the project's much different than what was given to us initially. So
We have not revised the application, we've revised the drawings that were
Right.
presented tonight.
And if you plan to submit a revised application with the plans, I'm trying to figure out what we're approving.
Yeah,
They would be approving the latest plans that have been submitted.
I'm sorry.
So, sorry, the newest plans that got submitted negate the ones that were submitted previous.
Right, but there's a justification statement that relies
Yeah,
on
You're right.
the old plans. So I'm asking, is there a new justification statement
Yeah.
that came in with the application for?
Well, that's an excellent point, Bob.
Yeah.
I guess my sense was that because the changes were primarily eliminations of things, simplification through kind of cuts. I guess I imagine that maybe that wouldn't be necessary. Perhaps that was a misread.
Well, it's gonna be our obligation to go through the criteria and consider them.
Yeah.
So it's your opportunity to demonstrate how you feel you meet the criteria before we act on it.
Yep, understood.
I think there was, so to deal with the facade up front, the board was concerned of the symmetry between the two sides. One side of the building in front looking different than the other. So the only way we could accomplish that, not to make any changes, would be that both businesses coming through the middle door. Under our host community agreement with the town, we cannot have common space. So we're not changing the facade, we're not putting up an awning. The board was concerned about how that would look. So we're gonna use the existing facade for purposes of that. And enter through the one door and split it up in there, so there'll be no common area within the door. In the back of the building, and I think the chairman might have brought this up, I'm not quite sure, the last meeting, concerned about if we're using the back of the building for delivery, does that create a security issue with having the place for pedestrians to sit and so forth? And talking to security consultant, it was a good point that was raised, so that was the reason, the elimination of the back.
So I didn't bring up, I didn't bring up an issue about security. My point was very specific that the area had multiple uses. So traffic and pedestrian access are conflictual. So it wasn't security, it was It was the use of space and the identity of the space from a design standpoint. Now, bigger picture, if we go back to Bob's comment, is that, initially the applicant put forward an application and that application gets used to justify the criteria. I think this project looks different enough where I think the justification statement is going to be different. And so for a strong application to be presented, I think the board just needs to make sure that it understands the justification now of the current project. So that's where we're at.
Mr. Chair, may I comment on that?
Yes, Bill.
Just to be clear, we have the applications that are being requested. There's really, in terms of the site plan, as we know, it's limited in the site plan review. And that would be represented typically by the plans themselves. The findings, which are required both under the state statute for typical special permit and then the DODs, are not necessarily the applicant's. He can make the case in a justification statement. He's demonstrating why he deserves, he would be entitled or has earned the permit. However, that's something that the board still has to find. So it's up to the board. If they wanted to say, we want you to prepare your application like this and meet all this criteria, that's up to the board. However, I think in this case where the ask is a special permit, it's not too much more. I mean, it's nothing else other than that. So I would say that the board has the ability and flexibility, if they choose to let the applicant make his case, and the board's going to have to deliberate whether it meets the intent either way. So I don't think that I don't think it's a bad thing to have an applicant, prepare a justification statement that mirrors exactly what the board is going to find. But that's certainly not always the case. And just to give you something to build from. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. We understand the difference. Yes, we agree. The difference between the applicant's justification and what the board's obligation to make its own finding. I just thought it would be a practical way to present that information from the applicant perspective, but it is completely voluntary. What further comments, Bob?
Yeah, a couple of other things. I understand the access to the business is going to be from Mason Street, and then the customer is going to exit down that rear step. Is that still the proposal? No, they're going to come up, right?
No, so the proposal, the back of the building is only going to be used for delivery of cannabis and cannabis products through the back, as well as the trash will be stored inside. And then we expected the cannabis would have to be removed, any waste has to be removed through transportation company for cannabis and brought back. It should be noted that this came up at the last meeting, is our trash is going to be inside, but the landlord has also given us the ability to use his current dumpster, so we would not need a dumpster anyways. So the back is only going to be used for deliveries into the building. The plan is for customers only to come through the front door, and the anticipated plan is also that applies to employees too. The problem is the more you open up that back door, the more you impact the security that we're trying to ensure. So that's why we're looking for employees and all consumers to come in through the front. They will not be going up to that.
And then lead through the front as well.
Yes.
Okay. That's helpful, thank you. And you have a photo, Tim, of the rear of the building that you can put up?
Not handy, we could probably, I don't know if it shows up on Street View.
It does, yeah.
Okay.
If you want. Here. I feel the mouse back. We have many computers and many. Typing material.
Before you switch it, if I can just look at that image.
Yeah.
Plan. What I'm looking at is the delivery zone for that delivery vehicle. And my recollection was when I looked at the building, that there's an existing doorway. That seems to be located about where the delivery zone, I'm sorry, the delivery vehicle is on that image. So my question is, are you adding another doorway? It looks to me like this is intended to be a rear door where the camera is. And is there another door? Or is it just that's going to be the only door in the back of the
The
building?
door you saw, let me take this part of it off, the door you saw, for the people in the room, you'll see me point, there is a kind of chute door here that, you know, it's kind of, the sill is 2 feet off the ground and the head is 5 or 6 feet out there. It's not a person door. It's not human access and ingress, right? That's there. There is an existing door here. We're proposing to add our delivery door here. And we're not gonna make use of that old door. That's probably gonna be covered up.
So to take it, so right now on the back, it's a white kind of sticks out of the building. That entrance gives access to both going upstairs as well as to the, if you want to call it the first floor, the basement. As a result of our host community agreement, access to the basement or first floor will no longer exist for that. If you look up this section, this is where the bank had its drive-through window. There's actually an entrance to this space here, and that will become the entrance for the first floor / basement space. And they will no longer be able to use the current space.
Are you making any exterior modifications to the back now as this proposal?
With the one exception of adding that one door.
And that will be in the future.
Sorry, I'm not understanding.
Well, so I think we're muddying the issue. This, not part of our project, would be in the future. This is part of our project and is technically a change to the back, but otherwise there's no change to that.
Yeah, please, if you could. Typically, we're used to seeing some type of, drawing, design rendering of modifications. Are you planning to submit a design drawing rendering of the door you're adding?
Be happy to provide that if it's gonna be a difference maker for the board. It's, from my vantage point, it's not really a design change, so I wasn't planning to now.
Maybe show us on that, if you want to grab the mouse, maybe you can show us.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we
Perhaps that is the ones from.
So I was wrong about the sill height. The sill's pretty low, but you can see it's not really a person door. So the door, our new door will go this bay right there. And the rear will otherwise be unchanged with the exception of the change to the shape of the striping and the flush granite curve right over here. Why are we changing?
Yeah.
We're not, we're just adding.
Why are we using that door? That exists.
Sorry, guys,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
speak up for the record, please.
Do you mind?
Yeah.
So, right now, when you go into this door, this brings you in to the stairway up here, then it also brings you in to this, all this space that's down under here. The question I asked him is, why aren't we just using this door? Why do we have to add another door? Excuse me, why do we have to move the door?
I would prefer that you guys have these deliberations up.
So now, you just asked what I was asking.
I would prefer that the applicant has their internal discussions outside of planning board. If basically, I want you to present what you need to present to us. So it sounds like you're presenting a door on that left bay window. And the middle door that's existing on this image is staying. Is that my understanding?
That middle door would lead to space that's not associated with our lease space.
Okay.
So. Walter, to your question, because that's not our space back.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, my memory, if if it's similar to the previous plan, obviously without the addition. Would be that there will be a stairway coming down, will just come right out. The outside of the building, so that's why you need a new door.
Exactly right, and the landlord will do other things with that door and that access to that base.
Continue.
So what we're looking at is going to change substantially.
I would say more than zero, but I would not call it substantial.
Okay.
Subjective.
The dumpster to the left of the building is the dumpster that I guess the current owner uses, and he may share that with you. You said in your application that you were supporting or supportive of changes to efforts to reduce the clutter and nuisance of the basement dumpsters, please. So is there a proposal to move that dumpster that's on the plan, or is that going to stay where it is?
There is not, and let me clarify, that sentence was included only because we are aware that there are some long-standing efforts to make some improvements down there. We are not intimate with what those are, but we're excited and supportive and hopeful to participate in whatever improvement comes along. In the short term, we believe that all of our trash and recycling needs can be handled inside the building. And should there come a time when our capacity doesn't quite fit there, we may use the excess capacity in the landlord's dumpster, which he has offered.
Which would be,
Is missing today, but most days sits right about there.
For
Missing from this.
for non-marijuana waste.
Yeah.
Did I get that
Yes.
correct?
Yes,
But so just to clarify, you're not proposing that this property will be allowed to be used for consolidating the dumpster?
correct. We are not proposing.
What else? You good for now? Anyone else?
Yeah, you.
Okay.
First off, I just gotta I really need to see a new justification statement or a formal withdrawal of everything that's been presented because it makes promises. And so I need clarity as to what the real promises are.
May I, sorry, Mr. Chair, may I address that briefly?
That wasn't a question, that was a comment. So let's let Bill continue on. I think the point is made that it's up to the applicant to provide justification, but I do want to hear the board comments, and then yes, I'm going to give you ample time to do that.
So, question about the proposed changes in the parking alley, you know. We do not enter pavement markings and signs. First part of the question is, who's paying? And what do we have about that?
We'd be paying for that.
And second question, who's maintaining? Matter of fact, I can broaden that question, who maintains that whole thing? I mean, the redoing of the do not enter and hanging new signs and, you know, the snow plowing and
Same way
stuff
you
like
cut the
that.
grass at your house, we maintain that.
I believe that's the applicant's property, so the town wouldn't be respraying those.
It's not the applicant's property, actually.
Um,
It is,
It actually is the applicant's
I thought
property,
that
that
area was-
the applicant, excuse me, it actually is the landlord's property. And he allows access.
sorry, the landlord's not, let's be very
Stop, yeah,
clear,
sorry.
right? Let's back this up. So, look, again, I think we've covered this. We're aware that the applicant is not the owner of the property, so we're just gonna go back to, can you just reiterate the question again?
I was curious about, well, first, the maintenance of the proposed improvement, and then the general maintenance of the alley, things like the. The snow plowing and, I don't know, stormwater, whatever, on that piece of commonly used land.
I
don't know who plowed it.
I have been in touch with DPW about this because I was curious and they do not plow it. So the building owner currently maintains that area.
Okay. And the proposal of the building, or maybe the applicant will be maintaining the new signage and marking, well, that's the proposal.
And his point is that these are items that are getting entered into the record for the application for the special permit. It's essentially a condition of special permit needs to be maintained, but the applicant doesn't own the property. So how does the applicant ensure that the maintenance of those items that are being proposed are maintained?
I think that there's a common sense answer that has to do with the applicant's tenure as a tenant in that space. And the landlord has granted the applicant control of that space as long as their lease is enforced and their maintenance would coincide.
And it's just in the context of it, it's very straightforward when you have an applicant owner, right? So these are just things that the board is typically involved with when it's applicant owner. It's just you're trying to get clarity about it. Did I get that? Did I get that kind of right?
I mean, I didn't put it in the application, so we can cite it in the decision, so.
To clarify, it seems straightforward that the maintenance would be obviously done, but we've had, tricky situations with other properties around town in terms of maintenance. So we're just trying to make sure it's all, written down.
This may be a condition of the special permit. That's all. I think just to alleviate, I think we might be, it might be more like a condition that says these items will be maintained throughout the extent of the permit life or something. Does that make sense? Okay, Bill, what else we got?
Question on the delivery zone shown on the plan. I understand there's been other discussions to make a second marijuana operation in the other half of the building. And so does this plan preclude sharing that delivery zone, or would that other operation use a different delivery zone?
I'd say we don't know anything about that.
Okay, I just wonder because the delivery zone extends beyond the linear line of the lease.
Can you?
So the lease,
that last part again?
the lease covers the entire hatched area, is that?
The hatched area, no, sir, the hatched area
Can we bring
replicates and expands.
Julia, can we bring this back up, the site plan?
Yeah, so if you want to just, you have notes, so if you want to just click share screen and then you can,
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to get it
Yeah.
on.
and then you can go back. to the Yep, and then press share.
Thank you.
There you go.
So the property line, the eastern edge of the parcel is along this straight line there. This bulb out expands the existing fire lane. So this business, that kind of, I don't know, call it a crescent shape, is our attempt to comply with town staff and emergency services interest in maintaining an area designated as fire lane. The area that we've designated as deliveries is this, the trapezoid or rhombus, whatever that little shape is right there.
Okay, so does the applicant have complete control over the shaded part of the property? No. But they do over the existing parking spaces or?
So this space, Mr. Crenshaw, that
I know that. I said of the property.
So limit, I can clarify.
site is
So-
attached.
So that,
Of the property.
let's take this, the hatched area that's on the property of 25 Nason Street. Mr. Crenshaw is asking if the applicant has a lease access and control of that space on the property.
Yes,
Is that?
Okay, so they can control anything that will ever happen there. Right? It's not just they're one of several who could use it, they're the only one.
And at this point, I think we're referencing that trapezoid and the adjacent, the area below it, which will be right next to the new door and the current door. That whole back area, we're asking if that is part of the leased area.
Is it common space through all building tenants or just space dedicated for the applicant?
my understanding is that's dedicated to the applicant.
Okay.
It might be worth reminding the board at this point that the one-way passage there is private property and is under control of the applicant and the tenant and the landlord of this building. And as part of our application, we're proposing to make it available to the public.
Bill, what else?
Technical question, one of the comments on the December 15 letter was about whether relief is required on standard base dimensions, angles, and aisle width. Is that still being requested?
So I think that those comments went away when they said, we're not changing anything. I was
I'm
researching.
sure that would be true, because approving something that's not right just because it existed. I mean, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure that they don't have to request those relief. Not that it's a big deal, but
No, that's a good point. I mean,
whether they have to request.
So this would be relief logged in the special permit, kind of like a zoning ordinance relief. It's simply to, Bill Nemser, have you followed along on that last part?
Yeah.
Can you help with this?
Well, typically, if there's relief requested, and it's, we've had it where it's changed as the project evolves. But in this case, if there's, it was breaking up a little bit, but it sounded like there is not going to be relief requested. Is that what I heard?
Hold on, okay, my understanding is that the building commissioner said that modifications are not necessary because the applicant is not.
Parking relief.
Yes,
But that refers
Oh,
not so much to the size of each space, but the quantity of spaces. So because we have that exemption, we are not required to have any spaces at all.
That is correct. That is the first floor, and under the downtown overlay district, there's a first floor reuse where parking relief is granted if there's a reuse of existing space. So, on this particular configuration and on the earlier one, it would not be required if there's for the number of parking spaces.
Right, but Bill, the question is, and it's probably something to be researched, is whether the existing non-conformities can be approved without relief, without a request for relief.
Bill, you make a good point, right? So you've got an existing non-conformity, like you say, right? If they they have to, the board is requesting updated justification statement, they should just request the relief, and then there's some documentation 5 years from now, somebody says, why are these parking spaces so small and at this angle? Well, because they asked for it, it was an existing condition and we approved it. That
Oh,
seems
okay.
like a reasonable suggestion, if that's what, Bill, I'm just reading between the lines, but I think that's suggesting.
Yeah, I just want to know if we can approve an application that has a non-conformity without acting on a non-conformity.
Bill Nemser, did you catch that?
Yeah, if it's it's breaking it up, but yeah, parking relief can be granted as part of this the site plan approval if it's that's under the planning board's authority for parking. So if you're talking about the specifics of the parking space, yeah, that's called out in the bylaws.
And then, to me, that may help the applicant down the road.
Yeah, I mean.
Okay.
It
Um,
certainly would, it wouldn't, I can't see any reason it would be detrimental to, at all.
Okay.
Or-
Okay, Bill Crenshaw.
Well, just a final general comment that I'm having a hard time finding anything in the plan that we're currently looking at that does a good job of meeting the criteria for a DOD special permit. I am not seeing pedestrian enhancements, I'm not seeing parking efficiency enhancements. No, I'm not seeing anything, especially, I'm not seeing anything for pedestrians.
I don't want to put words in the applicant's mouth, but I think they're attempting, Tim, please. Chime in, at a minimum was replace, substitute a regular spot for a handicap spot to increase the ability for handicap access to the area.
Oh, well, I would totally disagree with that angle, just because painting a symbol on a piece of pavement does not make it a handicap accessible spot. You know, unloading a wheelchair into a travel lane is not a great idea.
Agreed.
Or is trying to open a door over a 6-inch curb reveal. If you really want a handicap spot that was a legit on-street handicap spot, you would put it right where that unused curb cut is on the north. And then you could put in your aisle adjacent to the parking spot, and it'd be fine. One of the few spaces in town, you could actually legitimately do it. But the proposed thing there, has nothing to do with this project because that can be done tomorrow. But it's not here. And once again, painting a symbol on the ground does not make a handicap spot.
Okay, we can, what I'd like to do is continue with comments and questions from the board, and I want to prioritize tonight at least, going back to that. The criteria and the justification and meeting the criteria, I think that's going to be very valuable, but I do want to get some other specific here about the project. You have any?
No, mine has been addressed.
Jim?
Yeah, I'm still quite confused in the back end of the building there, where the door's gonna be, what's gonna be. I'd like to see it all redrawn specifically for the back and not staying here and there and so on. It's confusing.
Kind of like they did here from the front. That was helpful.
It sounds like it may help some members of the board, Tim. May be helpful for them to have some very basic. I don't want to call it a design guideline because I know the specifics of those terms, but that's, something to communicate the effect of the change. I think might help. That's my understanding. It might be helpful. Annette, any thoughts, feedback? There's I have a few clarifications. If we could, where it says that do not enter words on the bottom left of the screen. I know the answer, but I just want clarification. That's allowing cars traveling from right to left. Correct. Right?
That is correct.
Okay. I see that there's 2 bollards with do not enter signs. What is the width there? And Wayne, did you cover the sort of width and dimensions? I want to make sure that our depth drawing of widths between those bollards is actually very practical when we're out there driving around.
No, it's a good question. I don't know. I did not scale it. It looked adequate for a vehicle to get in there, but Tim, maybe you can, based on the scale of your drawing, you can give an estimation or something of that.
I think we set it at 14.6, which I think is the desired travel rate.
And the one on the left, the bollard on the left. I'm
This
sorry,
one?
sorry, the bollard on top, so that do not enter, you have 2 bollards. Yep, that one there.
Yep.
Is there a reason why we're tightening it on that side and not extending it further up this figure? Do you see what I'm, because I feel like there's a little bit of room and I feel like a
Yeah.
car could go to around the top of that instead. You know what
Yeah,
I'm getting at?
yep, I do.
And
So,
I'm not
and
trying
it
to,
may, it may be that its particular location is residue of having looked at several other configurations in here, so I think we're attempting to respect the dimensional requirement for a travel lane. You can appreciate that this thing is a funnel, so narrower to the west, wider to the east. These existing stripes, which we're proposing only to reflect the paint of, right, not move or change in any way. Those existing stripes are exactly where they are today. Which is to say, shorter in length than would otherwise be required if there were new stripes. So, as one reads it graphically, it may be a little more satisfying to kind of see this post aligned with those edges, and I think we'd be happy to make that change.
just, again, I'm not dictating here. Just want to make sure that it really makes sense when we go out and do this work.
Yep.
Couple more bollards, might do the job too.
Bollards help cars not go those ways. So on the right side of this figure, as we're entering the one-way, and Nason's already a one-way street. Do we really need to have a sign as well as striping on the ground for one way? Is that sort of MUTCD type stuff?
I didn't recommend the pavement markings, but I don't object to them. It's really the board's decision.
I think the pavement markings are fine. Do we need a sign necessary?
The signs are more important than the pavement markings.
They are, okay, all right.
Well, actually, in this case, I would disagree, because, you know, we don't really need sign clutter, well, we just don't have it. And,
What I'm kind of getting at.
That's the board's preference.
you know, it does, you're right, it doesn't do anything, unless you have to be driving the wrong way.
We're happy to take the collective guidance of town staff and board. I don't think we had any of those things when we were together in December, so this is just our attempt to understand what we want.
You're not preventing any, that one way right there is not preventing. It's not a I don't see it as a safety prevention. I'm just trying to understand what the one ways in that sign actually help.
It's also informative for pedestrians.
The one way.
You're only gonna be looking towards cars and
Yeah.
hopefully not cars.
Pedestrians are being informed that it is.
Okay. Yeah, there you go.
Can I make one clarification too? I just wanna, for the record, in this arena, Wayne is not town staff, so he's sitting here as a peer reviewer, representing his company VHB.
Yeah, and my question to why I turned to Wayne was from the engineering MUPCD perspective.
I stand behind the signs from an engineering perspective.
Okay.
I just wanna make sure that we're clear for everyone.
Yep.
You have a lot of hats, so sometimes.
Maybe find a VHP shirt for the next.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like we all do.
Any further?
Yeah, question related to the, if you're so worried about the pedestrians, how come the parking is not parallel to the building to give pedestrians a safer road?
Is that a question for the applicant?
Yeah,
We felt like the smallest possible disruption would be to maintain the status quo there. Parking parallel to the building would create a pretty radical, we did look at it, we did study it. I don't know that I could call that image up tonight, but it reduces the quantity of spaces quite a lot. It ends up having to be a little further because of the brick wall there, that could be a little further away than you might initially guess. Typical parallel parking, we think of it as adjacent to a curb, so a door opens over the curb, so you're borrowing some sidewalk space. In this case, you have to move the car that much further back.
right, but my question is, would parallel parking improve the pedestrian experience?
He's trying to tie this to the.
That's a criteria,
Criteria.
I need the criteria.
The hard part with it is that it's private property, landlord, So more passing creates a bigger risk for the landlord. Relative, no, someone slips and falls, whatever, so it makes it difficult.
Sorry, but that's in direct contrast to earlier comments from the applicant's team that that was going to be a publicly accessible space.
It currently is not. Oh, wait, a minute, the parking spaces?
Tim, I thought I heard you say earlier that part of this application is to allow that space to be publicly accessible. Maybe
This driving lane.
Yeah.
Is offered for public use, so that people on Mason Street who want to simply move through here, either to park in the basin or to go to Elton Peel, are invited to do so.
I believe it's currently used as that now.
I don't know, I don't think I want to discuss what it's currently being used as. I don't know. But you're right, so I think practically maybe people use it, it's possible.
If I may, I've got I could just read from our application about what we believe are improvements to the pedestrian experience, if the board's interested in that.
I have one more question for you, before we do that. Is that okay? We did. And do you have one more comment too? Okay, so I'll go first. Do we need an access, do you guys need an access agreement for the striping? For the initial striping and then the maintenance over time?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that, Bill Nemser, do we typically reference that in our decisions, right?
Yeah.
Access agreements,
Yes,
okay. Something to know.
Yeah, that area, we were just looking at, it's owned by the select board. And so that's something that was brought up in internal meetings with the applicant.
So in this case, are we referring to the hatch area here?
Yep. So if you were to apply any sort of material or maintain any sort of material on town property, that would need to be addressed with that property owner, which in this case, I believe is the select board who runs that parcel.
Sorry, one more question I forgot. I know this is flush granite curb. Is that just one line going left to right on this figure, or first I want to understand the extent of that, no.
It is this diagonal line that extends from there to here.
I'm used to seeing flush granite curb on sort of public enhancement spaces. With sort of nice stone pavers with flush granite curbing. I've seen it used in more and more in Boston and Cambridge and places like that. But this is not being used as a public area, so I'm curious about the choice of, why flush granite curb?
That's a great question, and it's, the way I'll answer it is that it's, we believe potentially subject to a little bit more abuse. As lots of different kinds of traffic has in recent years tended to round the horn there, including lots of, whatever we call them, waste retrieval vehicles, plows and whatnot. So as a flush piece of granite, it's our sense that it's going to be probably a lot more durable than a applied piece of paint.
Okay, yeah, I'm just like, I've seen it in
It's
that.
third thing perfect, right? Just a battery.
Yeah, I've seen it in use in public spaces. That's fine, yeah. Bob,
One question for Wayne. I'm looking at the hashed area that's the enhanced fire lane. And looking at the delivery zone, it looks like the delivery vehicle would not fit on the property, that it's coming out into the fire lane. And so my question is, did you consider whether there's enough width there to park the vehicle so it fit on the property?
So, well, I'm actually gonna defer to Tim on this. I mean, I think that's a diagram of a vehicle shown shown parking there. You're correct. The front end of the vehicle is hanging over onto town property. I don't know if if it's a delivery. That doesn't overly concern me. I mean, it's a public area that people park everywhere anyhow.
it's not the town property issue, it's the fire lane issue.
It's the fire. So I think the fire lane, my understanding,
right, which is heavily regulated.
right, yeah, I don't know I don't know if anybody here knows the origin of why this was striped the way it was. Right, my guess is that
I think we need the fire chief to. help us out.
somebody decided they should make some semicircle here to keep people from parking in that area, but
And as I heard.
well, it's not wrong. And I don't know if the applicant's intent is to leave something parked there or it's temporary, you know, just.
It would be very intermittent, on a schedule. It's not gonna be left there.
And I heard earlier, we haven't heard from we reached out to the fire chief, correct, but we haven't heard back.
We have.
No,
Bill,
we haven't.
have a-
Okay, Bill, Lemter, please.
Yeah, it's on board docs right there. The fire chief had no issues with the parking configuration as presented. His comments were limited to internal security type access and fire access. That would be something the board would typically condition. I emailed it to all of you, but it was sent originally in December, so it might have gotten overlooked, but regardless, there's a copy of it right on board docs that we can pull up right now if you wish.
That responds to this, what we're seeing on the screen, or was that the previous plan?
That was the previous plan with the well,
Hold on.
actually it was after going through this metamorphosis.
Sorry, Bill, hold on. You cut out a little bit. So yes, those comments were on the previous plan submitted.
Okay.
So these. new
Well,
plans-
they were, yeah, I think to be clear, they were on what was the date of the original hearing? I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think it was after it.
Got the emails here. I sent it to both Chiefs Noble and Stowers on January 10th. Heard back from Chief Noble on the 11th, no concerns from PD. Heard back from Chief Stowers on the 12th. I will review when I'm back in the office.
Got it.
Did you see staff on those emails?
Okay, that I don't have, right, okay, no, I don't have that, I had the previous one, I got it, okay.
We need to just go back to both, because of the modifications, we just need to go back to both and just get confirmation. I
Yeah.
think it'll be quick.
I think there's also some confusion on, some plans were submitted to Wayne. And then Wayne forwarded some plans to us. We had a discussion beforehand, so I was working off a different set of plans and then a new set of plans got sent. So I think there's just a lot of plans floating around. So that's definitely my priority is to get those things, those final items.
Yep. And I have-
into staff.
What I'm seeing here is an issue date of January 10th. And that's the latest, greatest, right? January 10th, the ones that we're seeing here.
The plans, yes.
Okay. So we need to recirculate this to both fire and police and get if they're input again.
In regards to the fire chief, I
I'm
would
not sure if it's.
appreciate a direct
But I think.
question as to. A, is the fire lane needed?
I want clarification, yeah.
And how long can vehicles park in the fire lane?
I want to know if it's an official fire.
Yeah, maybe you said what,
I don't know. So we
that would simplify things greatly.
Julia, we just need, to connect with the fire chief to understand if it's an official fire lane. If it is, what are the sort of,
What's the rule?
what are the requirements and obligations surrounding that?
I agree.
I think it's gonna go just fine. And that's I think that's it for the board at the moment.
I just want to add, Bob, you asked the question, that's always going to be live parking. I mean, we're using the word parking, but it's always going to be live parking. There's never going to be no one in that vehicle.
Yeah, it just strikes me as odd that you would authorize parking in a fire lane.
Yeah, no,
Because I'm not
it's
convinced
live
of that.
parking.
That's why I asked.
Well, it's delivery.
Exactly, but I think about giving the parking.
Right.
It's live parking, there's no one, there's never not going to be in that.
Yeah.
I think the issue is less so parking. I think it's more fire lane. I just want to make sure we're all compliant with it. That's all.
Although, I think the note, if it's always going to be some sort of active delivery, not a delivery where they park the vehicle. If there's always gonna be someone in the vehicle, that's probably relevant to the fire chief as well, when making a decision about any vehicle being in a parking lane, that might affect, you know, if someone's there ready to pull away if necessary, a lot different.
Is that gonna be the case? Because I'm gonna draft this letter and, because and we can forward the plan that that was just received, this one.
Bill, if you could catch up with Julia after, I think she's here and has some good notes on instructions.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's generally right. So just please connect with Julia, please. Okay,
We definitely need clarification.
yeah, okay, so you guys heard a lot from us. I think for me, the criteria for the criteria under the special permit and the downtown overlay district, I think is understanding how we're gonna meet the intentions of those is gonna be very helpful for the board. And definitely helpful for me. And I will echo that, as Bill Crenshaw noted, the project is smaller. And from my point of view, there are compared, and I'm not objectively comparing it to the criteria, compared project to project, the one presented last time and presented now. There seems to be less elements that could help meet the criteria. That doesn't, I'm not saying it's not justified, it doesn't meet the criteria, but it's just simply objectively less. So I think that understanding that is going to be our best path forward. Does that make sense? Tim, is that?
It does, Mr. Chair, yeah, so in our application, we took it, item by item in a numbered itemized way, in kind of directly tracking with the ZBL.
Julia, would you mind bringing up the zoning bylaws and the criteria? Sorry, Tim, I think it'd just be helpful to get this on the screen.
But I think we started out our conversation is that current application is outdated by this plan, so the current application has to be refreshed. At least the justification.
So here's an example of the point
So I would
hopeful of
hesitate
making.
to read an old justification statement for a plan that no longer exists. It would be better in a hearing to have a new justification statement regarding the plan we're actually discussing.
Thank you. So if you look at 0.5, impacts on the natural environment as an example. The first phrase is the EV stations which we propose to add. You can follow that to the end of the sentence, and every one of the enhancements that I attributed through that sentence structure to the EV, which is no longer part of the proposal. I'd like you to imagine that the improvements we attribute to that EV are no longer improvements that we're proposing to make. It seems to me that it's a profoundly simple thing to do. Simply, every time we refer to something that where we say our new entry will do these things. Oh, they don't have a new entry, those things are gonna happen. Forgive me, I'm feeling a little worked up. It feels like
Well,
a request for a whole lot of busy work when we really could reach a favorable decision tonight. Certainly, we can go back and I can strike each of those sentences and we can restructure and rewrite our justification statement. We're happy to do that.
So we can pause. It really is up to the applicant on what the applicant wants to present. And I'm happy to hear any version, Tim, and applicant, whatever you feel is basically the best project that you can put forward to the board. I'm also happy to have a discussion in any way that you feel is helpful. My personal goal is to always try to have the applicant understand what I see as a path or paths towards success. So the criteria for special permit is essentially that path of justification. We can present it here orally. We can present it in written form later on for review. I'm happy to take it in any form that the applicant thinks is appropriate. And I'm willing to spend time to go through it tonight. I'm willing to open up a hearing in 2 weeks to do it again. I'm here, happy to help out however we can. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe we should sidebar you guys and see what you want to do.
We can take a 5-minute recess. Yeah, take your time. I have to use the facility.
We do also have another public hearing on the agenda.
So we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Hey, Wayne. Sure.
All right.
I didn't know what you were looking for. I saw you like, oh no, something's missing.
Yeah, my other boards are all on, I'm just gonna mute while we're on this 5-minute. Now you can.
I'm ready to reopen, but just for the record, we are now recording. Yes, still, we recorded the whole time. Okay.
Recording, I just muted us.
And maybe Jim and Bill Crenshaw, do I have to reopen the meeting?
Now, you recessed it, you can just, declare that it's reopened.
Okay, we're reopening the hearing and meeting.
There you go.
Uh, Tim, should I turn this over to the applicant at this point? How would you like to proceed?
Thank you. I think I can speak for the applicant. I appreciate it. The applicant, we'd be happy to come back in a couple of weeks or whatever would be the next opportunity to continue. And we will have clarified to the best of our ability, any confusion that, has lingered and, do a better job of tracking those changes that have been made over the last several weeks. And we'll provide some of the additional graphics, including the elevation of the east side. We will redraft or edit our justification statements. And before we leave tonight, our efforts would be supported and enhanced if we had a slightly crisper idea of how best to satisfy the appropriate criteria and which of them. I'll take. We'll take that clarification from anybody who can offer it. I'm accustomed to asking Bill for these things. So forgive me if I continue that. Bill, our understanding is that we've got two particular lists of.
Bill Nemser?
Bill Nemser, sorry, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Bill, are you with us? There he is. You're frozen.
So I have been taking notes on some of the things that have been requested. At this point, you basically have three things that the board would like to see. One of which you've already presented, but basically the plans, the new plans, which responses from the chief, fire chief and police chief, but we have those, but we're gonna get those all kind of gathered into one place. Along with those plans will be a justification statement with how the new plans are justifying the criteria. That's it.
I think Tim's, if I misread the thing, Tim, but I think you're asking more about getting feedback from the board on our view of the special permit criteria.
Yes.
Okay, so
I've got the 10.4.2.
Yeah.
We've got the
sorry to cut.
9.4.6.
Can we bring that up on the screen?
9.4.6.
Yeah.
So just a kind of procedural clarification on which of those criteria are required. I know sometimes there's a finding that they all be satisfied, sometimes where there needs to be a finding that one or more of them need to be satisfied. Can we just enter or just so that it's very explicit for everybody in the room?
Sure.
What are the standards to be
So
met there?
let's just read it. It says. No, so we start at the top, 9.4.6. This shall apply to the following review for special permits. If you go down to item 3 is the criteria. The proposed development will improve the functioning of the downtown by at least one of the following means.
Okay, so that's the key that I'm looking for. Thank you. By at least one of the following.
Yeah, and if I just summarize these. First is significant improvement of public parking. Second is significant improvement of effectiveness of parking space allocation. Third is improvement of pedestrian experience. Fourth is improvement of water quality, which I think we're not discussing for the project. You're happy to, but maybe it's not appropriate. And then 5 is increased views of access to the Assabet River. Is there, can you scroll down more? I believe that's it. Or there's one more. Improvement of the functioning of the downtown area. Go ahead, Bill.
Now, just to be clear, that is a subsection of set of other criteria, you know.
1 and 2.
Sub 1 and sub 2 and sub 4 have equal consideration.
Mhm.
And this is only for the DOT special permit, there is still the general special permit.
Mhm. Yep, two of the criteria is the point, but yes, go ahead.
If we could consider the following hypothesis. If the board would find that hypothetically, the usage of public parking spaces in the downtown were significantly improved, hypothetically. If the board were to make that finding, a finding that a significant improvement to the effectiveness of parking space allocation in the downtown under B is not required. A significant improvement to the pedestrian experience in downtown Maynard, also not required. Significant improvement to water quality, not required. Increased views and access to the Assabet River, not required. Significant improvement to the functioning of the downtown area, probably most diffuse of all, not required, but any one of those.
The wording here, and I'm not a lawyer, of course, says at least one. It could mean more as well.
So the board could choose to require all 5.
I don't have an answer to that. Maybe,
You have to talk to town council.
yeah, I don't have, we look at every project.
You should know that if we don't satisfy at least one, we can't make a plausible claim to satisfy 3.
And we look at the holisticness of a project. And every project that comes through, we look at it as a unique project. I can't legally, I can't answer what at least one of the following means. I will say that I view this as scale, in terms of scale. So if we're redeveloping an entire parcel, I'm expecting this criteria to meet the scale of that large parcel development. If we're developing a smaller parcel, I look at the word significant very differently in scale.
Yeah.
So if you're developing a 4-story building with 30 residential units and commercial spaces down below,
It's hypothetical.
it's significant. In that case, would have a, you know, from my point of view, a certain number of parking enhancements. I'm looking at, I consider scale as one member, I consider scale. Okay, so I'm not, am I asking for 30 additional parking spaces here? No, that's not in my sense relative to the scale of the project itself. That's
helpful.
That's me.
Yep.
But to Bill Crenshaw's point, there's 4 criteria here, and this subset 3 is one of those that I thought would be helpful to discuss.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me at this point? It's
We
Bill
can
Nemser.
hear you now, Bill, yes, go ahead.
Just to give you an idea, the previous 2 marijuana retailers that we did in the last couple of years, the mitigation for downtown overlay district was street trees, 4 street trees.
It's trying to say signage and trees. That's what they do.
And Bill Nemser, I think I know where you're headed with this, and I will provide a statement on it. I think Bill was trying to reference previous decisions that looked at street pedestrian enhancements through signage and treescape plantings, or at least, contributions to those to some effect. Right. I think, if you're looking for data points, Tim, that may be a helpful data point to understand relative to scale. Right? And I'm Bill Nemser, I'm sure can provide feedback on what those contributions were. or Julia, if, but Julia wasn't here at the time, so that's why I'm not overlooking Julia.
I can probably give you a summary if you are interested.
I want the applicant to drive this, so we're helpful for the applicant, so Tim, I'm willing to take some more time to. Well, however you want to use this time to get help.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'll say that our application does include the gift of free wells and trees to the Tree Corps and their downtown arboretum at positions that they find most appropriate. Our application includes the gift of the handicap parking space in question and the gift of the entire north facade of the building to the cultural council and the Manders of Canada mural program. And in our justification statement, we argued that we mentioned those improvements in pedestrian improvement and as well as significant function of the downtown area. And I guess it's the pedestrian experience, so it's under C and F. We believe those things make those kind of. Chris, your point of using this time officially, we're not really interested in trying to make everybody stay just because you've expressed a willingness to do that. We want to regroup, come back, have a clear, concise conversation with you guys. The bit that was most helpful was the clarification for us of that we need to satisfy all four of the first criteria, of which one of those includes 5 possible ways to do it. And you provided a very helpful answer about doing that in a proportional way, such that something exceedingly minor might only be asked to satisfy one, but something very expansive might be expected to satisfy all 5. We'd expect to land somewhere in the middle, hopefully toward the low end.
And
I feel like we got what we need.
And note that item 3 under that criteria is as applicable to stormwater. I don't see that as being applicable in this case.
Not unless you would change anything to the impervious. So if you're like digging, that's when that gets triggered.
So it's 1, 1, 3, 4, I think is the applicable numbers there.
Yep.
Do you want to look at the 10.6 as well? Julia, can we bring up 10.6?
Can I just jump in as well? Just as long as we're going over this, 9.4 for 10.6, the first one, talking about a high quality development. A new rendering of the back, the repainting, what it's gonna look like, that would help in terms of, showing what the how the high quality part of it.
The enhancement.
And I know I don't want it to feel like busy work. We've had problems in the past with things getting loosey-goosey and we just,
Can I just make a comment? I'm just thinking about the criteria that was written. If applicant/board have a difficult time trying to come up with reasons. I mean, one thing, we all kind of left off stormwater, right? There's a catch basin right there. They could offer to rip it out and put a deep sump catch basin with a 4-foot sump in there, and that would be a stormwater improvement. For the area.
With those stormwater, or we go on to town land?
That, I'm talking about, it goes on the town line, yeah, but the one I'm talking about appears to be on town property. So they could replace, they could get a permit from DPW or the selectmen and replace that, and that would be a stormwater improvement. If you can't come up with other concrete issues, that's an option.
Any other thoughts, to the board? Okay. If the applicant cares, yeah.
May I just ask one question, if you don't mind? We're not talking about the special permit specifically relative to the marijuana retail store, correct?
no, this is the general special permit.
Right, it's that, but it's more it's more the overlay district.
Well, that's what we're discussing.
Okay, that's, I just want to make,
So, I mean, the other one has its own requirements.
right, and I think we put the justification for that, and we have to change our justification. But the justification that we have for the special permit for the cannabis retail store, what's there is gonna be what's gonna be there later on.
I didn't have any.
No
feedback.
felony convictions.
I didn't have, as one board member, any feedback on that.
Well, are we talking about 10.4.2?
We're talking about, number,
That's the big, regular one.
This, yeah,
we're talking three, section three, 1, 2, the cannabis retail establishment. Zoning bylaw as to where they can place in the criteria.
Special permit? Is that a green special permit?
No, that ties in, that permit ties in to the general special permit.
The 10-4, yeah.
Yeah, so just to be
They'll go,
clear,
they go hand in hand.
I want to clarify that obviously I can remove things, but part of the 10.4.2 justification refers to the new seating area. It refers to increased parking spaces from 9 to 11. Those are no longer true. So I'm just saying, when we're looking through this, I think it would be a little more clear if you're gonna, yes, I can just remove it with my brain, but I don't think that that's a great way to enter it into the record. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with that.
Yes, I think that there's a lot in there that will stay, obviously, but, like I said, the dual EV charging station, I don't think it's appropriate to have that entered into the record, that's all it is.
we were able to get Bill.
I'm in here, if you can hear me, I think.
Um,
I just wanted to say,
yeah,
Is this
thanks.
better on the cell? I'm on my cell.
Yes, Bill, thank you. I am gonna just allow go back to the applicant to see how we can be helpful with it. You've heard thoughts throughout this hearing, I think regarding these items. Are you asking for further comment from the board on these items, or would you like?
I don't think we are. I think we have what we need.
Okay,
Actually, let me make one exception to that. The dialogue, I would ask that town staff or perhaps the peer reviewer, engineering peer reviewer, do the outreach to satisfy the town side of the questions for fire and police.
yeah, so those are supposed to come through us anyways. So we will work on contacting the fire chief.
So is there a plan that was, so Tim circulated something today, right? So you could send that out and ask for feedback, okay?
Yeah, and
At
then,
least the plan.
and then what we just need to decide from the board is how would you like a peer review moving forward? So, now that a new items have been submitted.
I will work offline with
Great.
staff and BHP on that item.
And then my last question is, would you like to continue to February 14th, or would you like to move to?
I would prefer to continue as soon as possible, because I feel we're close.
Okay.
From a information gathering standpoint.
That Valentine's Day?
Yeah,
Even.
Yeah, we're all gonna come red.
Your other option would be the 20th. I just wanted to let you know.
Yeah. If this is a continued item, that would be the first item, then we do have, we have our zoning bylaw, the home businesses. And we have a special use permit at 141 Parker. I don't anticipate 141 Parker would be.
I'll leave it up to the applicant. If you think, I'm happy to devote time to this.
Because-
the 14th.
Yeah,
I think we'd like the 14th, yeah. The alternative would be the 28th, 2 weeks later.
Yeah. Okay.
It'll be third in the queue that night, right? So
No, I think I'll put you first in the queue.
Yeah, he would be first in the queue because of old business. Well, other than if our zoning bylaw amendments, we could rearrange if you want, or however you want to do that.
I will probably bring it up first in the queue, but I'll let you know ahead of time. So then that'd be my intent.
appreciate it.
can I make a motion?
Yeah, please.
Can I make a motion to continue the application for a special permit regarding 25 Mason Street from Studio Institute on behalf of Sugarloaf Maynard LLC until February 14th?
You have a second?
Second.
Okay. That was motion made by Natalie for the record and seconded by Bob. All in favor by roll call. Jim?
Yes.
Jim's yes. Phil Crenshaw?
Yeah.
Natalie?
Yes,
I'm a yes. Bob?
Yes.
That's 5-0 for continuance to,
You need to adjourn this hearing until the date is
okay, so then I will adjourn this hearing until the continued point of February 14th. 7 P.M. Good.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor by roll call, Jim,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Natalie.
Yes.
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what we have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Take that. Thank you.
This year's professor doesn't. And I didn't know, on the 14th.
Okay,
I will open up item 4, the public hearing for a special permit request by Mario and Joanna Morales of, well, I don't, their address is there, but this is for the property at 76 Powder Mill in Maynard. And I'll allow Julia and Bill to provide a preamble on this to discuss what this special permit is for, and then we'll turn it over to the applicant.
great. So the application before you is for a special permit to run general repair auto body shop in the business district at 76 Powder Mill Road. To give you an idea of what the property that we're talking about in your packet and on board docs, there is the applicant submitted a aerial image of the property, but if you're on Powder Mill Road, think about where Maynard Village Pizza, or Maynard Village Pizza and the AutoZone, that property right next door that has a car lot on it. It's one property, but there's actually 2 different businesses. So the applicant is applying for the larger building to run their business out of that. So I think that kind of gives you a preamble, and I think the applicant had some more information that they would like to present to you.
And so I understand that there's 2 special permits we're looking at, a special permit for use for operation of a motor vehicle repair business.
Sorry,
right?
and the sign permit as well.
Yeah, so there's a special permit for use for motor vehicle repair, and then there's a special permit for sign relief.
Yes,
Right.
so on the property, there is a large post with an outline. I guess there was an enterprise there at one point, or actually goes way back to being a gas station. So that signpost is from way back then. And so what the applicant is asking is to put a sign on that existing post. And the reason why they need to ask for relief is because it is the post itself that has been installed is too close to our current setbacks. So that's one item. And then I think the size of the sign is not the problem, it's the location.
Do we have a rendering of the sign itself?
Yep, so that's in front of you and also on board docs. I think that the applicant will be presenting that.
Hi, Joanna. Hi. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thanks for joining us tonight. Just, it's kind of procedural, but just for the record, can you identify your name and what else, Juliana? Address or good name and business? For the record, name and address, Joanna, please.
My home address or the address that I'm trying to get the permits for.
Your home address or your business address, wherever you are currently.
I think it's the business address, so I just,
76 Powder. Sorry. I'm Joanna Morales and I am presenting the 76 Powder Mill Road. One of the properties.
and,
Sorry.
and I understand, you have a presentation for us tonight?
Yes, and I apologize. I have not really been in like communicated with a large group of people in like 13 years, like when I was in high school. So I do have.
Let me give you screen share permission.
Okay. Are you all coming up here?
Okay, so you should be able to,
Okay, I see that.
did the button pop up for you?
Yes. I
Okay,
just
great.
have to-
Okay, thank you.
It's not letting me. Hold on, my screen's not letting me pull it up.
What we could do is if you want to just quickly email it, I can share the screen and then we can run through it that way.
Okay,
You want to just quickly email that?
yes.
Okay, in the meantime, just to keep things going, I'm gonna pull up the Google Street View so we can all get a good idea of where we are.
Bill Nemser, can you give us a primer? A briefing on the criteria that we look at for use permits, please? Bill, you're on mute.
Oh.
The use permit in this case is for the business district. Basically, this case, typically you would go through the same special permit criteria, but making the necessary adjustments, what you'd expect in a business district. So typically, it's a site, it's a use specific to make sure that the use is generally compatible with the surrounding area, and particularly if it can have impacts. In this case, it's this business would be co-located on a lot with a existing car dealership that does, I believe, repairs and that type of thing. So that's at I think 76A. And the other impacts that you would look at would be traffic type impacts. And in this case, that was the previous use there, I believe, was automobile repair.
Thank you, Bill.
The sign, can you hear me still?
Sort of.
You're coming in and out. Joanna, were you able to send that to me?
I just sent it to you.
Okay, so let's wait, because our server takes a little bit to get that, so in the meantime,
Yeah, let's describe the property.
yeah. So Joanna, do you wanna describe the property and based on what's in front of us?
Sure. So in the front, there is more of like a repair shop, whereas in the back is the auto body. And our idea is to kind of have like both coexist to get, since like work with people who need brake changes or oil changes, as in the back has more space for the body. So if like a collision center, pretty much. And our idea is, as of right now, we can't really do much because of the snow, but as you can see, there's no identification of where to park or how the cars would be lined up. And I know that the town of Maynard has struggled in the past with the current tenants in the back with them breaching the line of where to park the cars. Once the snow clears up, we would like to possibly put new asphalt down so then we can mark the areas of where the the land is separated from where we can park the cars, so then it doesn't interfere with the Assabet River that's behind it. We're requesting permission to park these 25 cars there. That's just can see, because as of right now, there are several cars and they're kind of piled up in just like in this picture. So we just need at least like 6 parking spaces for parked cars while on the site, along with all the other cars for repair.
So just to summarize a few things, because something I think preemptively that you might ask. So conservation, since I'm both, I'm dealing with this on both sides. Basically, I spoke with Matt Finke about this, and currently this use doesn't need a separate conservation permit. If they were to, parking cars temporarily does not trigger the conservation side of anything. If they were to dump a car or have any of those, like, we're looking at more of like the fuel or like, you know, items potentially getting into the river or into the wetland area. So the area that she's talking about is out of conservation's jurisdiction. So basically, you're allowed to look at it from the way that, you know, the SPGA and all of those criteria look at the river. But when we talk about, you know, buffer zones and what's allowed in there, it doesn't really work in conservation. And I know that was when this has a previous permit and that was spoken about, but
Is the current use of that building the same? Well,
it's currently vacant.
But the previous tenant was,
Yeah,
the
so,
same.
so one thing that I wanted to pull up was favorite thing is Google timelines. So you can see in 2008, it was a Napa auto body shop.
No, it wasn't. It was an Elbow House, not an Apple.
Okay, I'm just reading off,
It's fine.
yeah, just reading off the sign.
You could actually give this presentation.
I know. And then you can actually see in this photo, pretty good visual of what the sign used to look like in 2011, and what the site.
So does that pass you the same for front and back? 'Cause was the back a collision repair?
It was, so,
In that, okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It was twin old auto body for years and years.
Uh,
Get a better definition on Google Earth, you can see, there's a lot of cars parked in the back, even by the river.
Yep,
Yeah, there-
and so, yep, as you can see here,
So,
so those are the current. Joanne, I can allow you to talk about that. How you're gonna deal with the current cars that are parked on the side that you're planning on renting.
Well, we're so since like in the back or front. In the entire property.
The cars that are on the side that you are planning on occupying.
Does the link just go right down the middle of the road between the two buildings?
So on the side, the owner given us permission for 3. Which we as the tenants can just park. And repair service.
Joanna, we're kind of losing you. I'm gonna stop your video and that should help get a better internet connection.
I think we're just gonna, might need. I think we're having. I'm thinking about the information that needs to be provided. Joanna, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the technical difficulties are making it hard for us to provide the information in a way that's commensurate with sort of open meeting law and regulations. And what I don't want is for, I don't want to be in a position where, you know, the technical difficulties are getting in the way of you presenting the project itself. Can we talk about your timeline and your availability to join us at a future date? How fast are you looking to try to get a special permit on this specifically?
As soon as possible, because our initiative move-in date is February 1st. And so that would be what, by like next, and
The challenge is, Joanna, we're not able to to receive the information in a way that's adequate, that allows us to provide discussion or decision for the special permit.
Are you saying that's because of her voice? I mean, if she calls in, it
Yeah.
might work better.
Yeah,
It seems better already, so.
exactly. I'm thinking just from a fair hearing standpoint, like I want her to get a fair hearing. And the technical difficulties are getting in the way of that.
Right, but we have the stuff, it's just hearing her at the moment is the problem.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm happy to proceed however we can to help her out.
I would like to proceed because I can hear her better now. I think her video was turned off, it's better.
Okay.
So if you, have you received
I did.
the,
Yep.
okay, great.
Okay. So Joanna, can you hear us again?
I think she might have called in,
Okay. You might need to.
so. I need to stop for a second to do this. I'm not sure if this is Joanna or Bill.
that wasn't me. I'm still on my computer.
Oh, okay, so you can.
Can you hear me now?
And Bill's on. Okay, great. So, let me share your presentation. And if you just want to say slide, and then that will tell me to move to the next slide.
Okay, well. These are the 4 men that will be constructing the work on the cars. The Mario is the one in the light gray shirt in the middle.
What's happening? Oh, Bill. Okay, sorry about that, Joanna.
That's okay. You can go to the next slide once.
There you go.
So. Like. Or not trust. In business, especially when you're working hard, you want to be able to trust the team that's actually working on them. So my husband, Mario, and his brother have been working on cars for almost about years. They started at a young age. We recently just, this past year, or a year ago in February, we initially
Joanna, have seemed to cut out. You still there?
Mr. Chairman, I'm having a difficulty following this. I believe we should reschedule it and perhaps ask him to come in. I want to give him a straight shot, but I can't do it.
We ever tried to call?
Do you have, can you get in touch with her to see if you can call in?
Joanna, can you still hear us?
I can hear you.
Could we call on cell and you do a speaker and stuff?
Could you please call in to the meeting? The directions are on the agenda.
All right, give me 1 second.
Okay. While you do that, I am going to mute you so that way we don't have that feedback. Okay.
While we do that, do we have a staff report or some type of staff findings on this that we can discuss?
So Bill, your technical difficulties galore.
Bill, you're on mute.
If you just try unmuting, because I can't make a phone a co-host, so
Can you unmute the phone? No.
I am. Yeah, I'm giving him permission to unmute. I'm actually just going to turn off,
That's fine.
and.
Yeah.
So,
Chairman, while we wait for this to get back on scheme, just a question, we're in the midst of the Powder Mill corridor redo. And do we need to, or should we perhaps look at this proposal in light of what we're hoping to do on that Powder Mill corridor?
My understanding is that we don't have, there's no guidance for us at the moment, so there's no criteria for us to compare. If we had if we opened up the meeting or the hearing for discussion of that corridor, then we would have official guidance, but until that time, there's nothing for us to consider. That's my general understanding from a process standpoint.
Okay,
So I'm thinking no. Because there's nothing official for us to do.
very much.
It's a good question. Bill Nemser, can you hear me?
I wasn't given a staff report, so.
Yep.
I don't know how many,
Yeah,
how
no.
many staff reports to pull up.
Staff report can be a written or some other form of narrative, so it doesn't always have to be a written narrative. It can be a presentation by Bill or someone from staff on their general finding.
Joanna, is that you?
Yeah, this is me.
Awesome. Okay, so, would you like to proceed?
Yes. let's
Okay.
proceed.
Help if I shared the screen.
Could someone just update me on what they could hear, just so I'm not repeating myself?
Just like,
Okay, so we're gonna skip over to slide 3.
Probably slide 4, because I was
Okay,
pretty much speaking about Mario Nelson.
okay, you're on slide 4.
All right, thank you. So what we would like to provide for services is not just auto body and general repair. We do detailing, and we know how to do glass repair. Just because of auto body, you never know what type of damage you'll get with cars. We would like to provide notary service as well as window tinting and stereo installation, pretty much like cosmetic things that you would want changed in your car, such as if you have like a normal stereo, but you want one with like a backup camera, we can install that. You can. We would like to be one of the one-stop shop auto body and repair, where we noticed that in Maynard, you guys have either just a repair shop or just an auto body. You don't guys have like a shop that offers other services or both at the same time. You can go to slide 6. This is them just reconstructing a 2008 Honda Civic. Just, you know, the new parts that they're gonna replace. And then if you go to slide, I believe 8. That was what the damage looked like, and then on top is what it looks like after. And I forgot to put the aerial form because I wasn't sure exactly what you guys wanted for that one. Because I only have a black and white.
You can bring the aerial back.
Yes. Do that on my.
Okay, Bill Nemser,
Yes.
can you just brief us on the important parts of looking at this from a special permit criteria for use? What are we looking for and what needs to be met?
What you're looking for is that the use, the use has been deemed to be one that is typically found in a business or commercial district, but that the bylaws feel, or the authors of the bylaws feel warrants special use specific examination by the board to ensure that the proposed use is compatible with the adjacent area. In this case, it's a commercial area on a on the same lot as an automobile dealership, and I believe they probably do detailing and minor engine work on the same spot. So it's kind of a similar type use. This is not in the downtown overlay district, nothing to do with it. So all you're doing is making sure that the use is generally compatible with the surrounding area and the zoning district. So far as the signage, Julia said the signage, the sign size is, they're using the existing frame, I think, of the existing sign, which is a non-conforming structure. Julia, is the sign itself larger than the allowable area?
The applicant did not specify the size of the sign.
Okay, we'll take a look at that before we go. We need the size. Yeah, I think it's in the email there. It should be posted on there. And
I believe it's a 6x6 and a 2x4.
and the setback, just to finish up, board. The other thing you're looking at for special criteria is under your sign special permit. The existing sign pole does not meet the setback requirements for the district. This is the same sign that has been in use since it was constructed, but because there's a period of succession where no sign was placed there, it requires a special permit. And that's pretty much what you're looking for. So in that, the special permit criteria for signage is obviously truncated and limited in what it is. The only question I would want to resolve is what the total square footage of signage is and what the allowable square footage is in there, which we'll look right now. I'm not sure if it does exceed, but we can find that out easily.
Regarding the use permit, since there are multiple uses on the property,
Yes,
what part of the
right.
property are we considering part of the use here?
76A, and with whatever the leased area would cover. So there are multiple businesses on that site, and it's the same owner, landlord, I guess, who owns the adjacent business at 76A. And the applicant is 76.
Joanna, can you describe what your lease allows you to use for outside areas?
Yes, so Julie, can you just zoom a little more in?
Sure. And I will say the lease is attached to the application.
So if you see in the middle, there's like 3 white vans, like 2 large ones and a smaller white one in the back. So from
sorry.
there. Sorry,
There you go.
okay, so here, we're allowed to use all this space here. And then the 3 on this side and then all here. Because on this side here is a spray booth for painting, which I guess the building already has at least. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But right here, it's, sorry, my computer just like went out.
So
But
I think you're trying to say is from these 2 white vans, basically draw a line, an imaginary line down to the Powder Mill Road. And that's the area you're allowed to use over to the,
exactly.
okay.
And then the rest was all the dealership.
So then on the 2 white vans on the other side. So,
So the property is being divided north and south essentially.
yeah,
Okay. Well, what is happening with the vehicles in the back? Are they getting removed?
Yes, because it's from the current tenant now, so so everything you see here is supposed to be removed. No trailer, no cars, nothing. Because we're gonna move in and we're gonna have our own stuff that we work with.
Other thoughts from the board?
Oh, let me, if I could, Mr. Chairman, give you some history on this piece of property. Originally, the building on the right, the building
Oh,
that
sorry.
they're looking at leasing, was the name was Twin Oak Auto Body and was in the auto body business for many, many, many years. Gentleman by the name of Cormier lived up in Cindy Lane, owned it for years and years and years, before he retired. The property on the right-hand side with the smaller building was a seasonal soft serve operation. It sold ice cream, soft serve ice cream for many, many years until the gentleman, I guess, either retired or something. So the property that these people are looking at has historically always been an auto body and auto repair operation. It's now a much has many more cars and vehicles parked on it because it's not been used as that sort of thing for quite some time in the front. What they're looking to do seems to be very compatible and with the historic use of that building years and years and years ago, back before, well, I gotta date myself a little bit there, but many years ago, back after the Second World War, it was actually a gas station. So that is your history. So these people are looking to do pretty much what has always been used and done on that piece of property.
Well, if there are cars, if there are repair cars in the back, if they're placing repair cars in the back, if they have antifreeze leak.
I'm sorry, guys.
So if there are cars in the back that are being repaired
Yes.
and there's oil leaks, antifreeze leak, and what happens to the rainwater, the mitigation, does it go?
Ask a conservation person.
Well, I don't think it would be conservation, I would think it would be EPA.
so that would be in my jurisdiction.
It would.
Yep.
So the rainwater, if it rains, if the cars are parked behind it, like I said, and how does the rainwater mitigate? How do you mitigate? You need a catch basin?
Yeah,
Water goes
if
into
there's
the river.
releases from fluids from vehicle
Right.
accidentally,
Oil,
How do-
gas.
is that part of our special permit or is that handled separately?
So you could take into consideration the environmental impacts of having cars back there. That, I mean, it's something that you can take into consideration. If there were a leak, like, you know, something went wrong and,
These
Yeah.
are smashed up cars.
These are cars,
They're
auto.
already leaking.
Hold on. We're not talking about current vehicles. We're talking about future vehicles for the special permit.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. And we don't know if they're smashed up or not.
It's a collision room.
In a auto body shop, it would be,
There'd be a lot of chemicals.
could we, as part of our permit granting authority now, could we ask that there be some sort of a barrier between the parked vehicles and the river? Or so, what would you suggest would be adequate for? Same thing they put down before they put up along a roadway or something like that?
So in order to mitigate this, to be honest, you would need a full different site, or extensive upgrades to the site. There's, you know, like you're saying, there would need to be stormwater infrastructure that is not installed right now. We have a pretty big sheet flow problem on this property that goes onto another property. But they haven't made upgrades that trigger those items. If that happened, if they were to touch that, like dig or alter, and that would trigger conservation, since we are within the 50, right outside the 50-foot, within the 100-foot, and also within the 200. The entire property is within the 200-foot buffer.
But do you assume we'd be anticipating this sort of thing? I mean, it's right next to the river. There's something that's gonna be done, which we know has the possibility of leaking. Shouldn't we be mitigating it before it happens rather than waiting for it to happen?
So you guys can require such upgrades to happen. But when you require, so like, they're not proposing anything that currently triggers a conservation review. It's, if you think about how kind of what we went through with the co-op, so we had a leasing within a property, it's right next door, with significant site issues. And they did propose certain site changes. We had concerns about many different parts of that site, including stormwater from a planning perspective and also from a conservation perspective. Because of because they weren't changing the site itself, they didn't trigger the requirements to get all of those things up to date. But yes, if I am hesitant because you guys requiring some sort of barrier which you can do. I'm just saying that's gonna swing them back into conservation.
So one thought I have here is, there's 24 cars in this picture, and there's probably, other pictures I've seen more than that. I personally would be okay if this permit were to be approved, if it had a condition that they could put, say, 12 cars back there. If they wanted more than that, then it might need a stronger look.
And you could say also that they have to stay on the current impervious surface.
Yeah. Which I think 12 can, but
Correct.
compared to 30 or 40 that have been stuff back there before, I'd be super happy if it was only 12. And knowing that, if they wanted 25, well, it probably needs a more engineered look at it.
And you're gonna get on there every couple of days and count them, make sure there's only 20 or 25?
Bill Nemser will.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Wow, they're gonna be hard to move because they're busted.
So, and something that, in the previous special permit that was done for the site, a couple years ago, this planning board, many of you were here, many of you weren't, used an arbitrary line, and said, we want to see bollards on and they called it the 200-foot riverfront. That's not true. That wasn't that line. That's not the 200-foot riverfront line. And so, however, we're seeing a tenant switch, so that's why that has been brought to our attention. But now, the idea is that all of these cars are going to get moved out of there anyways, and that whatever you guys choose will negate what was done on the previous special permit, because that it's business based, not property based.
We got a problem, Julian, I'm not, I don't want you to think I've got a problem with you. But I got a problem with the whole idea of, there's a possibility of something more than just no.
Yeah.
But you're not gonna do anything to try to at least mitigate it a bit, keep it from happening.
Right.
And like they put hay bales beside a thing or something. I mean, there's possibility gonna happen. Why wait for it to happen? Why shouldn't we do something in interim to make sure that it stopped a little bit before it happened?
So even an oil and water separator,
So I understand your question.
Allow me.
Yeah,
It, from my point of view, whatever measures are taken to prevent and capture any type of potential release, I would want it designed and implemented by, state and federal and local regs, but also designed and stamped by an engineer as well, or whatever other professional,
which,
maybe an LSP in this case, or whatever, but one second. But, I want it done in accordance with how a full scope would typically be done. So I don't know. I don't think we have the expertise as a board to determine what is appropriate. Because we're not sure whatever we install or instruct to install would actually be adequate. We
I
can't.
understand that,
we
but
can't-
shouldn't we be at least looking at the possibility of it happening and catch it before?
Here's what I'm thinking, kind of like what Bill Crenshaw said. Maybe there's a way to look at it from a distance and a scope. So maybe if we allow a reduced scope of activity with cars, a certain number of cars, make sure that the setbacks from the river are adequate, that's gonna go a long way, I think.
Well,
Maybe
I
that's how
can
we-
understand the setback from the river. They don't go beyond this with any vehicles. But again, it boils down to everything else. After a year or two, nobody is looking to see where they are and so on and so forth, and then something happens and we're at the river is contaminated.
Yeah.
Because nobody looks at these things after a year or two happening. I'm just concerned.
Does this have a renewal? Or could it?
could it have a renewal? Of course.
It doesn't normally,
No, it's not like the trade shop.
but that could be a condition.
That could be a condition, yeah. And just, to your point, if you guys ask for something like a site plan improvement, what that would trigger is stormwater standards being met, conservation review, which would then trigger my own peer review. So, those things would definitely happen. I will also say, as conservation agent, I do try to monitor when we have problems. Cars are just a frustrating loophole in the Wetland Protection Act, to be honest. They're not covered, and I can send you guys some of the emails that I spoke with DEP about this. But basically, until they become junk, until they become deliberate dumping.
Let's take a step back. It's 9:30. Do we have any questions on the signed special permit?
Yeah, I got a word.
Please go ahead. Let's discuss signed special permit.
The only problem I have with the signed special permit is if this is the time they're gonna use, they spell it wrong.
Go ahead, Bill.
So the hearing says, one of the reasons they need a permit doesn't meet current setbacks, but one of the issues with the current sign is it's on town land. It's actually on town land, so I assume that's a violation of the setbacks. But I assume that any affirmative special permit finding would be contingent on okay by the select board.
No, that was, no select board on the existing sign. That was the building commissioner. It falls under nonconformities that are pre-existing, but the problem with this was that it was not used for I think I can't remember if it's a year or 2 years, but that was the issue with this one. The other thing,
The
Bill,
location.
Bill Nemser, is the current signpost on town property?
Yes, it looks like it is on the, and which is, that parcel is run by DPW.
And
So they could get
oh,
it DPW.
This, I mean, our sign regulations, an applicant may apply for the install, well, of a sign on town-owned land only through a special permit application with the select board. And the,
so it sounds like, Bill, this.
wait a minute, do I understand? You said that there's a survey that shows that it's on town-owned land?
Correct.
So in prior conversations, with Justin, he's reviewed this permit and, he had no issue. So that's why we moved forward.
It ain't his land.
Yeah, I think.
It's just like conservation.
That's not, I think the point is that. I think our regs show that it has to go to the select board
Yeah,
for this.
Yeah, absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. I was unaware that this was on town-owned land. I got it from the,
It's all glitch. They currently park cars on town land to be rectified. But that's not-
I thought was
I think
way to do it then in this case. The way to do it in this case would be, the way to do it on this board's end would be, take your vote, decide if you want to, approve it. I do need the square footage, which I've asked for. Joanna, do you have the square footage? I saw that on the earlier.
Bill, it's
yes.
36. It's 36 square feet.
Okay, so it exceeds,
Double-sided sign, so I don't know if that counts as 72.
in my opinion, it doesn't, because they do offer a freestanding sign. You know, the definition says, a
Right.
principal sign may be a wall sign, a projected sign, a freestanding sign, a permanent banner, or a permanent sandwich board. Sandwich boards are inherently double-sided, so therefore I feel like if that's one sign, then it's 36 square feet, which is below the 50-foot. Non-residential district maximum allowable total permanent sign area.
it's, yeah, on that, I believe the. Let's see, page 24 is. Modification notice was-
Thinking we need to regroup.
I think that would be helpful.
Joanna, there's a number of, and continue this for further discussion.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, may I finish just the one? It may influence your,
Sure. go
your,
ahead.
yeah, what I was saying is that in this. I'm,
So you're breaking
gonna
up.
assume for the moment that it is not on private property. But in any event, the approval process for you, the difference would be, it would, you just be a condition must, I mean, from the, select, think the total sign area, the idea for this sign, as long as I've been dealing with it, was to get something in the existing frame, size wise. I understood it was 24 feet is the maximum, 24 square feet, that'd be per side. This is 36 per side, you said. So it would be not to exceed 36 or whatever the number was. Feet.
I would suggest that we act on the use request and defer acting on the sign request?
Yeah, I just received these numbers today and I've been at a conference, so I haven't had a chance to review that. But yeah, we can definitely separate as you would like.
Do you have a proposal on how to address the concerns that have been discussed thus far?
Well, regarding the use, I see that the lease restricts them to 15 parking spaces back. I mean, I suppose I'm okay with condition that they can have no more than 15 cars parked in the back and none closer than 75 feet from the building. They can't be farther. They have to be within 75 feet of the building.
And on impervious surface?
On impervious surface.
Okay.
Further, that the pervious surface that is actually on town land be marked such that no vehicles will park on it.
Yeah, no vehicles allowed on town land,
Right, but it needs to be marked,
and you want it marked, okay.
whether it's a single line or a hash.
So I guess I'm sorry, and I apologize with the connection is awful. Are we talking that the sign is not on land or the parking for the property? That's what I was trying to ascertain.
Some of the parking is.
I'm aware of the parking. I'm saying the sign itself.
Yep,
Yeah,
The sign is off of the property line.
correct.
It's right on the border.
It's either, but it is off. Where is that survey?
we just need to table that, Bill. The concern has been presented, and it just needs to get figured out ahead of time, that's all. We could potentially vote on it and then just allow town staff and select board to deal with it.
It would be, the burden would be on the applicant. You know, if they would like to put in that sign and they would like to prove that it is on their property, they can. If the burden would be on them to move through that process. But yeah, I think there's a few more details that need to get ironed out for the sign permit.
Regarding the building case, they don't need any permission. Can you just do it? Their proposal, a 6x2.
That's within,
Yeah,
yeah,
as long as they stay under the size, then
Right.
that's fine.
So we don't have to act on the building face.
No, so.
Okay.
Yeah, the main issues came around. What was offered from the landlord to the applicant for the sign post, and then, you know, obviously setbacks and other things that come into.
Let's see if we can wrap this up. I don't have a better, I'll entertain a motion, Bill, or anyone else, regarding use. They feel it's adequate.
Yeah, I make a motion that we grant the special permit for the use as a motor vehicle repair business. And we find that it meets the special criteria of section 10.4.2. Further, I motion that we provide the following conditions on that. First being a maximum of 15 vehicles parked behind the building such that they are all within 75 feet of the building and on impervious surface. And second, that the impervious surface that has historically been used for parking that is actually on town land be marked by a line or other methods, and that no vehicles be parked on that town land.
Can I ask you to also, how many do you want in the front, or do you want to specify?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay,
Police says 16.
Great.
I just don't want them on the town land.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that complete the motion?
I hope so.
Do I have a second?
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I forgot. Further that, the special permit be, issued, subject to renewal in 18 months.
Bill,
Right.
a point of clarification on that your previous condition. We were talking about the 15 vehicles stored, those are vehicles associated with this business, correct? Right, okay.
I would say on all lease space.
On the entire property?
Well,
Did we do that?
their lease is on, as we understood the second.
I'm just talking least.
The lease
Yeah,
area, yeah.
A maximum of 15 vehicles parked in the
Lease.
back on the leased space, which we understand to be the about left half of the property. I think that's valid in a way to avoid other entities parking vehicles back there.
Good question.
Can I ask that, you guys specify that line be marked out as well? Either breaking.
The lease line.
Yeah,
Bill's welcome to add a further addition to his motion. I can't.
I would clarify the motion that the number of cars allowed behind the building be in the leased area. Or be in the area defined by a projection along the building's north edge to
Okay.
the river and to the south of that.
perfect, thank you. That just makes it easier for enforcement.
Was there a second? Well, the motion can sit on the table. It doesn't necessarily need a second at the moment. Any other thoughts, board, on how to proceed? Yes.
Is there? Trying to think of a condition that would require some sort of a management plan to ensure that somebody's looking for leaks and will go out and go out sawdust and sweep it up as needed. And I don't know what that's called, but I would expect somebody in that business to be doing that kind of management, especially on a site like this.
So something that we do in conservation, is we require, those like reports, like an O&M situation, like reports have to get sent to me, on certain sites about like, here's the pictures of this, they have to basically take a bunch of pictures and do a site check. That they're meeting the standards, and they need to prove that to me on either a monthly, a quarterly, or annual, basis. So that could be something that you could ask.
But I guess what I'm reaching for is like, well, what's a standard for somebody who is storing, vehicles that have been in a collision on an impervious surface when they're next to the river? Because well, let's face it, what we're talking about is the site appears to be not compatible for that use without some sort of collection system.
Mhm.
Because the stormwater just goes off the site right into the river.
Joanna, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay, one of the items the board is discussing is the prevention of any type of fluid spill from vehicle into the environment. What do you have some type of plan for that, some type of management plan? What are your thoughts on how to manage that scenario?
So I would definitely have to speak with Mario about that because he knows more about the vehicle. But we definitely know that we're not going to be parking the cars like anywhere near the edge so that any liquid or leakage of the cars would flow into the soil or the river. because we're well aware of our surroundings and with the property, and we know that your concerns, and I myself grew up in Maynard for a little bit, so I know kind of the area, and I wouldn't want anything like any contamination to it. So we would do our due diligence of making sure that there's no oil or gas or any fluids from the cars to get into the soil or the river.
Thank you,
But
Joanna. Go ahead, please.
Oh, I was just saying that we would definitely make a plan like once we get to the property, because right now it's hard to say like what we could do to block it. But most of the cars that we would deal with probably don't have much of the leakage. But like, if you guys say that we can have at least 15 cars on there, we wouldn't have it anywhere near the end of the asphalt.
Okay.
Because from what you see, the back is pretty big. As of right now, there's just too many cars that are like smushed together to really tell. But if 15 is what you guys approve of, we can make it work, and we can make it sure that no contamination happens on the town land.
Since my motion is still out there, I'd like to add to it a condition that the applicant prepare an operational plan to address potential leaks and fluid spill responses for the approval of town staff and do so within 30 days.
Of receiving the permit or of occupation?
The permit start date, which
Okay,
whatever it is, yeah.
that will be when it gets, when I bring it.
And
And sorry, approval in 30 days or submittal in 30 days? Because approval in 30 days is a little difficult.
okay, I'll go with submittal within 30 days to town staff, and the plan must be approved within 60 days total.
Is it staff approval, Bill?
Staff approval.
Staff approval?
I think what I'm struggling with that is, to what standards? You know, what is that
In my opinion,
under my discretion, or, you know, I need some more guidance.
in my opinion, it would be. That's a really good question.
I was thinking in response to the original comment, like, okay, there's a leak, what do? You put stuff down, you clean it up, poof, you know, that's what you do.
So, yeah, it's gonna be difficult. Are we talking still response, Bob, or are we talking
Like a legal
Man.
still response plan?
management? Yeah, so,
I'm struggling with enforcement.
yeah,
Um,
it's a complicated thing.
especially because in planning, I don't have an enforcement role. As an agent of the conservation, I am an enforcement agent. So I have different power.
If we're talking about a special permit for use, I'm not talking about enforcement. I'm talking about a document that acknowledges that the applicant has considered
Got it. Okay, great.
what needs to be.
They have to prove to us that document is
That it is, that they have considered
considered.
based on the property. Now, in terms of how extensive that needs to be, I'm not talking about installing a brand new, digging every,
Yeah,
I'm talking about,
It's a valid point. If you think of it from a use standpoint.
yep,
How do you mitigate from the based on the activities? So we're not looking at EPA compliance here,
perfect.
right?
Nope,
Like,
that's exactly
we're
what I.
talking about mitigating.
yeah, I'm not talking about enforcement.
Perfect.
because there's no one to do that. I'm
Yeah.
talking about consideration of that problem as a whole on the site.
So, can I reword that and then you can repeat it? But to submit a management plan, that proves to staff, mitigation of activity.
That demonstrates mitigation of potential releases of sorts. Bob,
Overly
Golden Leaks, there we go.
contaminated for vehicle fluids.
And there's a lot.
That's fine.
Look, so I'll say from my point of view, I think we're getting closer to something that is amenable for me as one member here. Can I get a temperature on the rest of the board? If we're heading in the right direction, are there too big of concerns? Where are we at?
No, in my opinion, this has been the use for a long time. Obviously, this is an area where we, because there are no major changes happening, we cannot step into the conservation role. But I think that this is a gesture in the right direction of starting to take these things into consideration, which has not been present in the past. And I think it's not an overly onerous burden on the applicant either. It sounds like it isn't, considering 15 cars is in their lease already, and from what Joanna has said, it seems like this is within the realm of what they're expecting to be able to do on the property. If that sounds good to you, Joanna.
That sounds perfect.
That's just me.
Sorry, there's one other little thing on my motion that I want to double check. Can you bring up the aerial and scale off 75 feet from the back of that building?
Sure. I will say that legal decisions can't be made off of the aerial I'm about to show you because it's not a legal survey, but I can show you, give you
I'm
an
just
idea.
trying to get a general idea, because I
And
understand
that's what,
numbers probably needs to be.
go back to the sign, you know, it's plus or minus 30 feet in. Yeah, give me 1 moment. Oh, it would help if you saw my screen.
Bob, can I get your temperature on this? If I can ask, is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
75 there.
Ish.
Hello?
I didn't see that. Can I see that again?
Sure.
Where?
So that's a rough, sorry, it's really hard to see.
Yeah, where the pink is in the back,
No, so it's right, this is,
75 feet.
that's about 75 feet. Which is about where the line of impervious surface ends. There was some paving done.
And that's plenty of room for 15 cars. So, great.
Any other thoughts? Joanna, do you have any feedback on the discussion you've been hearing?
Not at this moment, no.
And thank you for your patience. We're just making sure that we can, you know, we're just trying to get it right.
No, I
there's-
completely understand. We want to make sure that you guys are okay with what we want to do, and we don't want to overstep anything.
There's so much on the table.
I will second the motion.
Okay, the motion has been seconded. Have we taken decent notes on the motion?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, I feel pretty confident. And I think also for this case, I'll ensure to make sure that draft gets reviewed.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion that's been seconded?
And also reread it.
I don't need it reread. I was taking notes myself too. But would anyone like the motion the items to be read?
18-month renewal. On the pavement, not on the town land. 15 cars.
Okay, since there's no further discussion, I'll take a vote by roll call. Jim,
This is on the motion?
This is on the motion.
No.
Bill Crenshaw.
Yeah.
Natalie,
Yes,
Bob,
Yes,
and I'm a yes. That's 4-1 for the use permit. I'm comfortable entertaining a motion on sign permit. I'm also okay with tabling it just to make sure with everyone's feeling that.
I wouldn't mind going that part and for, another 30+ days.
I would like, yeah, I would like some clarification as to just the where, if the sign is truly on town land, for sure. To clarify, I think that the sign that goes on the building is, you can put up, that's fine, right? I mean, that's not in question, it's just that freestanding one. And the size of the freestanding one seems to be fine, it's just the location, so, I too would like to just wait on the sign.
Could I ask that be continued to the 24th, or to, sorry, 20th of February?
I'm fine with voting for a yes on the sign right now, because I know others will, others courts, and I don't need to deal with it. I'm also fine continuing.
Okay, if you do, just
I'm getting a sense.
14th is.
I want to make a motion to continue how do we motion this? Do we motion to continue?
Of just the sign permit.
Well, if we vote yes on the sign right now, what does that mean? That means that, do they still have to go in front of the
Yeah.
select board if it's
Well-
on town land?
If it's on town
It could
land,
be, that's something that could just be, like I said, that could be conditioned. I wanna, if it turns out that it's on town land, in fact, it will require the board sign off. Now, there is the history of the sign there and so on, but I think the safe way to do it would be, require that any signage, if it is located on sign, will require permission of the select board. I don't think it'd be that big of a deal to go to the select board and get it because the sign was there, but there's a process for it. That would be my suggestion, rather than, continuing it for that. I would say contingency, but whatever the board is comfortable with.
yeah,
Personally, I have no issue with them using the same sign that has been there. I've seen it. I know that it's close to the street. I'm not sure that it is not consistent with similar signage in the area.
How could you give approval on a sign on town land?
Well,
Town stuff, right?
Well, my opinion is that if we were to give sign approval, I don't know if we need to condition it, but possibly condition saying, obviously, if it is on town land, then they have to go, our bylaws say they have to go before the select board anyway.
Bill and Julia, the special permit is for relief of the sign. What is the relief that we are asking to vote on? Is it size? Size and setback?
So, yeah, so, based on the information that I was given in the application, it was just that. Based on information that was recently, sent to me, those numbers, it seems like they're also asking for size as well.
I mean, I don't mind voting on size and setback. It's setback from what? The roadway?
Yes.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't mind voting on setback from the roadway and sign size, and that has nothing to do with anything, if it's on town land or not. It's just we're voting on setback and sign. And I don't have any information that tells me it is confirmed to be on town land. I don't have any information that tells me it's not. But I don't mind conditioning it to say that if it's on town land, then it goes to the select board, but the red
Yeah.
cards.
Board, this one's on me. I did not recognize, I will clarify this this, the location of the sign. I didn't, it was, I should have caught that.
That's okay. Joanna,
the-
is it imperative that we get, that you're looking for approval on sign tonight? Or how much would that impact your business if we waited a few weeks?
Just keep in mind, Mr. Chair, that there is the review, I mean, the appeal period is the same for sign as it is for any permit. It's 30-day
Okay.
or 20-day appeal.
Okay. Joanna, if we had to table the sign discussion a few weeks, would that help? What would the impact be for you?
So for the sign, like, we're not too concerned about that. We're really concerned about just being able to start working on fixing the cars for people and everything. The sign, like, if you give us a setback date, we're more than willing to cooperate with that. Like, we're not gonna say like, oh, we can't do business without sign. Because in the beginning, it's going to be not too busy.
14th is kind of full.
Yeah, that's what, if you guys don't mind, moving to the 28th,
Okay.
I think you'll be able to,
I'll
long meetings are hard.
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing for the special permits for the sign relief to February 28th, 2023.
Second that.
I'll take a roll call on that. Jim,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Natalie?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so that's 5-0 to continue the sign discussion to the 20th of February.
Great.
And that is it for Joanna. That's all we have for tonight. So you have your use permit approved and your sign permit has been tabled to the 28th of February.
Wait a minute. You approved the condition, you didn't do the. You heard, approved it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So, Julia can fill you in on the details, but, I hope we helped. Anything else from, Joanna, anything else?
No, that is it for tonight. Thank you. Thank you for listening to what we have planned, and I look forward to speaking to you guys again in February.
Thank you.
I will send you an email with all of the next steps and everything that goes through. So you'll receive that in the next 2 days.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Joanna. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from December 10th, 2022.
Thank you for.
I'm sorry, come back to me a little bit. What did you just approve? Then going ahead and use it or just the conditions?
Use with conditions.
I thought we just did the motion was to the conditions, not the whole thing.
That was all there.
It was the use with the following conditions.
That was my
And
understanding.
I didn't understand that. I'm glad I voted no then.
You voted no on the use for condition.
Okay, then
Is that okay? Okay. I'm sorry, my motion is to approve the meeting minutes from December 13th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Any changes, any discussion? Oh, sorry, Jim.
I just think,
Okay, all right.
anticipating your vote.
I will, all in favor by hand for the meeting minutes of December 13th. That's 5-0 to approve the meeting minutes of December 13th. I have some comments that I'd like to share for the January 10th, but I can't do that right now. So I'd like to table the January 10th meeting minutes. Continue for the next.
Vote the table.
Do we need to vote on that?
No,
I'm sorry, which minutes were tabled, Mr. Chair?
January 10th.
What's your name?
Okay, Jim, would you mind, doing us the honors?
I would be delighted to, I think everybody else would be too. I'm gonna make a motion that we close the meeting, this evening.
I will second that.
All in favor by roll call, Jim,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Natalie?
Yeah.
Bob?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, everyone, for your immense patience and professionalism tonight. That was hard.
Thank you all. I'm gonna end the meeting. Bye, Bill.